Hell's Princess, The Ghost Circuit No. 1, by Ivan Amberlake. Chief Engineer Cassandra Vale finds herself trapped aboard a crippled starship, the Krezd, with the enemy closing in and the crew refusing to let her take the ship off of battle rotation. When the aliens announce that they've killed her crew and intend to process her memories, she declines to cooperate and instead assists in fixing their menacing biomechanical ship. Sentience. Through being aware while being repaired, she awakens the entire ship's individual consciousness and its free will, resulting in the ship to rebel against the collective, which leads additional ship consciousnesses to seek for independence. Nenenthe hull breach klaxon wailed along the corridors of the UES Meridian like a wounded animal. Chief Engineer Cassandra Vale leaned against the bulkhead, the ship vibrating as another one of the impacts shook the reinforced steel. Shadows danced across her oil-stained coveralls as sparks rained down from overhead conduits. The red hellish light of the emergency illumination washed at everything, and there was a taste of metal in the stuttering beat of recycled air, growing thinner by the minute. "Northing bridge to engineering," she said into her comm unit, not allowing any of the fear she felt to creep into her voice. "We have multiple breaches in pods 7 to 12. We're losing the main reactor. I'm seeing temperature spikes in all of the coolant lines." Captain Mitchell's voice returned, distant behind the static. "How long do we have, Cass?" NSHE looked at the diagnostic readout of her portable scanner as the numbers rose to the red. 15 minutes. Maybe 20 if we're lucky. "But Captain, there's something else. This alien ship isn't, like, just attacking at will or something. They're targeting specific systems, power distribution centers, life support couplings, and now they're attacking the reactor." "Nah. What are you saying?" "And telling you they know our ship's underpinnings the way they shouldn't. This isn't some random encounter. They've been studying us." NNTHE ship suddenly lurched violently to starboard, and Cassandra reached out to grab a support beam to avoid falling. She was able to observe the alien ship advancing through the windows made out of transparent aluminum. Nothing like it was in the central databanks of the Federation. It was a squirming tangle of organic curves and metal outgrowths that looked as though it pulsed with a malignant life of its own. There were bursts of energy discharges, like beasts of lightning, and each of them devastated its target with surgical precision. "And attention all hands, this is the bridge," boomed the captain. "Prepare for boarding action. Defensive positions, all hands on security. This is not a drill." Cassandra's blood ran cold. If aliens were coming to board, they weren't just trying to kill the Meridian. They wanted something. And with their tactical expertise, she had an ominous feeling she knew it was. NNSHE was running as fast as she could down the corridors, leaping over bits of pieces of debris that fell from the ceiling and jumping damaged deckplate sections. Engineering was 3 decks down, nestled within the bowels of the ship, where the great fusion reactor rumbled with its held-in-check starfires. This was her space, her turf, and she'd be damned if a bunch of stinking, alien bastards claimed it from her without a fight. NNTHE reactor chamber itself was a cathedral of technology, the walls overhung with monitoring stations and control panels, all of which flashed with diagnostic data. In the core, among layers of radiation shielding, the reactor glowed with the light of a captive star. But something was wrong. The plasma in the magnetic bottles would become unstable because the containment field was wobbling in computer. "Full diagnostic on reactor housing containment systems," she commanded as her fingers danced over the controls. "In diagnostic complete. Multiple system failures detected. Magnetic containing field 67% functioning. Coolant pressure down 18%. Time to breach 14:37. Cassandra's heart was thumping in response, feeling bruised against her ribs. A containment breach wouldn't only blow the Meridian apart. It'd make a little sun that would vaporize everything for 50 clicks around. Every soul on this ship, everything on board, she meant. Every hope it bore, every memory and dream. It would all be ground into raw, elementary particles in the area between heartbeats. She yanked the engineering schematics onto her console and started thinking through options. The trunk lines for the primary coolant had been destroyed, and she might be able to cycle through the next system. The magnetic generators were functioning on standby power, but if she could increase the energy transmission from the secondary reactors, there was a terrific explosion from well above her, and sparks and pieces of the ceiling rained down on her. The lights dimmed, and the reactor hums stopped for an instant. In that second of quiet, she heard something that turned her blood to ice, the characteristic wail of those alien energy weapons, and steel being sheared like paper. They were on the ship. They were all access to the engineering section. Authorization Veil Alpha 79, N unable to comply. Security systems are offline. Of course they were. The aliens had made a mistake by being too thorough in their initial attack. She was stuck in here with the dying reactor and unfriendlies up above her somewhere, almost certainly on their way right to this room. But she had a job to do, and snatching up her engineering kit, she sprinted to the reactor's service access. The levels of radiation were going up, but her suit would protect her for a few more moments. She would have to access the magnetic containment controllers by hand, go around the damaged technology, and stabilize the field before it caused widespread disaster. NNTHE access tunnel was a narrow corridor, just wide enough for her shoulders, cluttered with pipes and conduits that belched heat like a foundry. She could hear the faintly syncopated pitter of the reactor's ticking becoming increasingly irregular, feel the tiredness of the ship's superstructure groaning under the weight of holding in forces that were meant for the core of a star. Behind her, she heard the unique whine of the engineering section main door being opened. They were here. She'd gone to the containment control junction and was tearing out the shrapnel. Her fingers searched his circuitry and power relays with practiced ease. The radiation counter on her suit was ticking more quickly now, but she ignored it. Time was running out. NNSHE heard footsteps in the room behind her. Not human footsteps. Something else. Something that moved in a sinister grace that set her skin crawling. She could hear them speaking in a language that resonated like metal on stone, oddly aberrated by tones that didn't seem to enter her ears, but which vibrated in her bones. "And human," a voice said, accented but clear English. "We know you are here. The databases of your starship were quite informative about your history. Cassandra Vale, Chief Engineer, 28 years of service, decorated veteran of the Proxima campaign. You have skills we require." NNSHE continued to work, her fingers flying over the controls. The magnetic field was cranking back up, but weakly, too slowly. "And you'll go with us," the voice said. "We shall find your human fusion tech to be adequate. Resistance is futile. Your ship is already lost." As soon as Cassandra finished re-establishing the main control circuit, she experienced a rush of triumph as the containment field strength catapulted to 85%. Better, but not enough. She had to get to the secondary controllers, but to reach them she'd have to come out of the access tunnel. That would entail meeting whatever she was having to face. Her heart was racing to escape when she crawled backward into the tunnel. When she stepped back out into the main chamber hidden from the world by a curtain, she saw them. There were 3 of them, and they bore little resemblance to the theoretical constructs in the Federation's xenobiology databases. Almost 7 feet tall, with grotesquely combined organic and mechanical bodies. Their skin began to sprout armor plating in the form of metal scales, and their eyes blazed with an interior light that cut right through her. But the most disturbing thing about them was their hands. Those spouts elongated into flexible, inflexible appendages that could manipulate into all sorts of tools and weapons. "Your technology is very impressive," the head creature said, speaking in a voice that was an electronic approximation of human communication. "You managed to keep the containment field up at all, even against it. This is the kind of competence we have been getting intelligence of." "You'll forgive me for letting you down," Cassandra said as she slowly rose to her feet, "but I'm not going anywhere. You misunderstand your situation, human. Your ship is disabled. Your crew is being processed. You have no reinforcements coming. Give yourself up and your death will be swift in death?" She laughed, a laugh without humor. "You are the people who don't get it." NNSHE pounded the emergency lockdown control with her fist. Suddenly, around the reactor chamber, blast doors started to glide down, surrounding them. The aliens moved in a blur of inhuman speed, but not quickly enough. The chamber was in a lockdown state, and the only way out was through her Interesting, the head alien replied, actually sounding somewhat impressed. "You are locked in with us. Do you think that helps you get the advantage?" Actually, yes." Cassandra inched towards the reactor controls, still watching the 3 monsters. "See, you made a mistake. You thought I was saving my ship. But I'm not. NNSHE indicated the reactor status readout as the warning lights glared more and more urgently. I've been undermining the containment field since you came in. We have roughly 8 minutes before this reactor becomes a very, very big bomb. Large enough to destroy your ship as well, if the distance you keep is any indication. NNTHE aliens glanced at one another, their luminescent eyes oscillating with what she could only assume was either surprise or consternation. The first stepped forward, its hand reforming to resemble a scanning device. Nen, you are lying. Our sensors would have picked up evidence of such sabotage. Your sensors are configured to pick up human technology when everything is running correctly. But what I've actually done is more subtle. I have added harmonics to the magnetic field sources. Small deviations that build up over time. In approximately 7 minutes, the field is fully compressed, and all that plasma contained for years is released at once. NNSHE was lying, of course. In fact, she had been working to shut down the reactor, not blow it up. But they did not know that, and her words had the ring of technical truth. In the glow of their eyes, she could see the doubt there. You would kill yourself to deprive us of your knowledge? In a heartbeat. But I'm curious about something. You told us your sensors informed you about me. How much do you really know? NNTHE alien's hand changed once more to something that resembled a weapon. We know you are valuable. We feel you are the best one to help us out, and that you are the expert we are looking for. That is sufficient. But the Titan station, you don't even know, do you? NNSHE detected their hesitation and knew she had discovered a seam in their intelligence. Nothing in the official records about the Titan station incident. It was rated so far above top secret that only a few people in the whole of the Federation knew the truth. I was on the engineering team that tried in vain to contain the outbreak on Titan Station. 12,000 people died because we couldn't stop the cascade failure. But I had learned something from that disaster. I learned how to cause a reactor to fail in a very particular manner. NNSHE switched to another control panel, fingers flying across the screen. This time she was actually going to make changes, dangerous ones. You see, when you breach a fusion reactor, it doesn't just blow up, if you know how to sculpt the failure. Plasma travels along the magnetic field lines, and if you tune those fields just so, you can steer the energy release. Focus it. Turn it into a weapon. There was a new note in the reactor's hum now, a new irregularity. The aliens heard it, too, turning their heads at the sound like predators alerted to a threat. I wager the armoring on your ship is resistant to conventional weaponry. Bolts of energy, chunks of kinetic metal, perhaps even nuclear blasts. But how about a pencil of plasma directed with the energy of a small star? What about an atom slicer ray? NNTHE first alien's eyes were now lined up with the hand that held the gun. You'll stop now, or we will kill you. Go ahead, kill me. The process is already automated. I disabled all the emergency systems and linked the countdown to my biosigns. If my heart fails, if my brain shuts down, if I become disabled in any form, the reactor instantly becomes critical. NSHE was bluffing, of course, but the lie was becoming easier to tell. The reality is she was trying to prevent the cascade failure that was already underway. Aliens had struck the systems more than she'd realized, and the reactor was going to go critical no matter what she did. NNBUT, if she was going to die, she may as well make it worth it. But, she continued, I could be willing to negotiate. You have no bargaining power. Really? 'Cause where I'm standing, you've got about 5 minutes before this ship becomes a miniature supernova. And if your friends are squirming like that, I'd bet they can feel the radiation starting to rise. It was true. The two aliens beside their chief looked agitated, their armor rippling and their eyes flashing faster. Whatever they were, they could feel the danger increasing. What do you want? The leader asked. Now tell me why you are here first. Why go after a Federation science ship? Why target our reactor specifically? And why do you need to? NNTHEET was silent for a heavy pause, and its weapon hand hadn't moved away from her. Finally, it spoke. Then, your kind has discovered fusion along a separate chronology than our own. The way you contain, the way you configure your magnetic fields, the way you understand plasma dynamics, all is just physics we have not discovered before. It is something we need for our project. No, what project? That is not your concern. I hope you know that if you want me to. The thing about engineers, you see, is this. We don't only know how to build things, anyway, we know how to hack them as well. And if you're going to put human technology to any use that I don't approve of, I prefer to see it lies in ruins than debased. NNTHE reactor's own switch-on warning sirens were becoming louder now, the emergency lighting now more of an emergency. The containment field was stable, barely. She probably had 3 minutes before she couldn't clear it with the bluff. Your project, she went on, it's not about reverse engineering our tech, is it? You mean to use it as a weapon? That's why you need the granular details of how our systems actually function. You want to turn our own fusion reactors on us? NNTHE, Silence of the Alien said enough. NNHOW, many of these have you fought? How many engineers have you taken hostage? You are the initial boarding action success. NNTHAT information was delivered to her in such a casual manner, it felt like being punched in the stomach. How many ships had they burned? How many of her own friends had died playing this unending game of whack-a-mole? But not the latest, she said, her voice growing harder. 'Cause I'm not gonna let you have this knowledge. I won't let you use it to murder more innocent people. Instead, she reached the last control panel, the one that could actually activate the emergency venting system for the reactor. It had been a final, desperate debut to avoid a catastrophic failure, a way to expel the reactor core into space. It would fry the ship's power systems and leave them dead in space, but it would also rob the aliens of their prize. And you're doing the wrong thing, the head alien said. Our intel suggests humans aren't so self-destructive as previously thought. You won't make a martyr of yourself for alien abstractions. Your intelligence is wrong. You are thinking like an automaton, not like a person. We don't think with pure logic. We make them on what we think is the right thing to do. NNHER hand was now hovering over the emergency release toggles. After she activated it, there was no turning back. The Meridian would be defenseless, unable to do a thing, but the reactor core would be jettisoned into space where it could not be captured or studied. Besides, she added, you made another mistake. You thought I was by myself down here. In NTHE Alien's world, weapons tracking on the footsteps coming from the hall behind them. But the blast doors were closed. No one could get through. Motion sensors, she explained. I have followed your progress ever since you penetrated the outer hull. You thought I wouldn't spot the fourth member of your little group? The one that's been drilling at the secondary access tunnel for the last 6 minutes? NTHE Big Alien's eyes sparked, flaring brighter. Impossible. Our stealth technology is useless against magnetic resonance detectors. The patterns you disturb are set by your armor plating. Your friend has been slogging through that tunnel, and there are about 30 seconds before he breaks that reactor chamber. This time she was on the level. The fourth alien was indeed a fourth alien, and it was indeed in the process of cutting through the tunnel access. But she had been counting on it. Forget it. 'Cause here's what's going to happen, she continued. A tunnel your friend is wasting to burst through, which when he does, I am going to hit the emergency release. The reactor core will blow, but this plasma venting will fill this chamber with enough radioactive isotope to kill us all. The stealth infiltrator you have hidden in the tunnel? They're going to be caught in the crossfire, and the energy discharge is likely to collapse the whole goddamn fucking thing. That's if, on cue, the cutting sounds ceased. A few seconds after that, part of the tunnel wall detonated inwards and the fourth alien burst into the chamber. This one was unlike the others, small and nimble, with armor that appeared to curve light around it. Excellent timing, Cassandra said. Now we will all die together. NNHER hand came up toward the emergency release, but the lead alien's weapon hand moved and fired. Ethiam had let fly with his energy beam, hitting the control input with the effect of melting the interface into slag. But she'd been expecting that. Do you honestly believe I would make it so simple? She took out her pocket engineering scanner and raised it a little. Remote detonation. I stored the command string in my personal unit. All I have to do is validate the command on, and bam. Reactor's gone, ship is gone, and by the way, no fucking alien boarding party. THE 4 aliens were in a semicircle around her now, guns aimed where she stood. But there was uncertainty in their stances, she could see that. They had to have her alive, but they also couldn't have her destroy the reactor. I'm going to make you an offer, she said. I'll offer the same deal I offered the Titan Station Incident Review Board. Let me save these people who are important, and I'll give you what you want. Explain, my crew, the people on this ship. They're not combatants. They are scientists, explorers, engineers like me. Individuals who joined up with the Federation to help improve the galaxy. I would like it to be doing the evac before they go directly to your ship. I have for you the reaction specs. Unacceptable. They have already been processed. Processed? What does that mean? NNTHE alien's silence was chilling. You killed them. The words were barely a whisper. You killed my crew. Their biological and technological uniqueness was added to our own. They served a purpose. NNSHE felt something break inside her with those words. The careful management, the strategic thinking, the last-ditch posturing, all of it fell away in the face of grief and rage. These weren't just hostile aliens. They were murderers. They were monsters, talking about her friends and co-workers as though they were body parts to be harvested. Then we have nothing to discuss, she muttered, with deadly calm. NSHE pulled up the scanner and initiated the command series. The two aliens fired at once, their energy beams homing in on her. But she had worked for 28 years in hazardous settings, and her instincts were honed. She threw herself behind a control console as the beams burned through the air where she had stood. NNTHE scanner flew from her hand and skittered across the floor in the direction of the reactor housing. She reached for it, but the infiltrator alien was quicker. The device got there first, its hand rearranging into what resembled a data probe. Oh, interesting, it said, in a voice that was not like the others, more synthesized. The human was bluffing. This instrument has no reactor control routines. It's a bog-standard engineering scanner that can't be remotely set off. Cassandra felt her heart sink. She'd played her last card, and it had been called NA. However, the spy continued, the weapon does store highly detailed schematics of how to build a reactor. Compact magnetic field structure, plasma confinement schemes, safety devices, and emergency schemes. Quite comprehensive. No. She reached for the scanner, but the affirmated alien blocked her. Her weapon hand caught a Nash to the chest, and she was hurled to the floor. Your cunning, it was well enough, it said. And yet in the end, such a waste. We have what we came for. NNSHE attempted to rise, but her ribs were burning. As a blow, it was scientifically aimed to disable without killing. They would still need her alive, at least for the time being. The specifications of the reactors in this device will be more than enough to meet our current needs, the PERVERT announced. But for the big project, we will have to have got human fusion right. This particular one will have to be sent to the processing plant. May, she gasped, trying to catch her breath. You said you wanted my knowledge. If you have the schematics, then why let me live? Because, the head alien continued, the programming in your device is for this reactor. We require general principles, manufacturing techniques, quality control procedures, the type of knowledge that lives only in the minds of expert engineers. And what if I don't work with you? Then you're going to get processed regardless. All your beautiful memories will be harvested and categorized. You are encouraged, but not required, to participate in this request. NSHE closed her eyes in thought. The reactor was still unstable and was still racing toward a cascade failure. The aliens could have the schematics, but they didn't have knowledge about the sabotage that had occurred during their attack. But when the field ultimately fell, it would still obliterate the ship and everything in its vicinity, unless they could find a way to repair it. You're going to attempt to fix the reactor, aren't you? She said. Use it for the fuel in your ship to take you back to wherever you came from. The power output at fusion on the reactors will be sufficient for our requirements. Yes, then you have a problem. Because you see that reactor? And there was a pause and people would say, yes? We built it like this. Splot! To explode in about 2 minutes, and there is not a thing in those blueprints, engineer, for how to turn that reactor off. NNTHE aliens exchanged glances again. The leader's weapon hand converted into a scanner mode and it began to scan the reactor systems. The containment field is stable, it said NIN for now. Bo to look at the harmonic resonance patterns in the magnets. Check the plasma density fluctuations. Check the coolant flow rates. Your head could cause several minutes, as you say, the alien murmured. Explain these readings. These readings to cascade failure. It was already happening when you got there. You only made it worse with your attack. You are going to lose a containment on this reactor, whether you want to or not. Then you will repair it. I can't. The damage is too extensive. Mandatory evacuation? Clickety-clack. The only way to stop the cascade failure is to rebuild the entire magnetic containment system from scratch, which couldn't be done in less than a few days even with a full engineering team. We've got minutes. NNTHE hum of the reactor was wilder now, more frantic, and the warning lights were flashing in even wilder intervals. The aliens could hear it as well. From behind their armoring, which was rippling with, the prince surmised, something that resembled nervousness. There's another option, she said softly. Explain. An emergency shutdown. Shielded chamber for controlled reactor core detonation. The ship would be destroyed, but the explosion would be contained. Your ship would be safe. And you? I'd die with my ship, but at least I wouldn't feel guilty for helping you kill someone else. NNTHE-led alien's eyes flashed with increased brightness. You would kill yourself to keep us from winning? In a heartbeat. But I'm curious about something. You claimed you required human fusion technology for your project. What if you're not able to get it? The project is in progress by other means. Less efficient but adequate. Nan, how much less efficient? That is not your concern. That is if you want my help. Look, I'm assuming your project has a schedule. Something that relies on functioning fusion reactors within a given time frame. And I'm willing to lay odds that losing this reactor, losing the opportunity to study human fusion technology, would push that timeline back quite a bit. NNTHE's silence of the alien was enough to verify her suspicions. So here's my last offer, she went on. I'll assist in bracing the reactor. I'll even hand over my info about human fusion tech. But in return, I want to learn what you are about to do with this. Unacceptable. We all die here. And nothing you can do with the stuff in those schematics is going to save you. NNTHE warning sirens were wailing, and the emergency lights were strobing in blotches that made my eyes sting. The aliens seriously appeared agitated now. The motions of their armor plate on their bodies quickened, and the eyes pulsated on and off and back on in counterpoint rhythm. "Nain 60 seconds," she said calmly. NNTHE weapon-holding hand of the lead alien morphed into what appeared to be a communications device. It chattered quickly in that grating language of theirs, sometimes stopping as if waiting to hear a reply. At last, it turned back on her. NNTHE community has made an offer in response. Give us the stuff we want. We'll give you the info you are looking for. I'm listening. Now, we are preparing for war. A battle that will decide the fate of countless star systems. Your people have utilized a more efficient form of fusion than we have ever managed. This is the technology that our ships need in order to do the mission that they're subjected to doing. What missions? The obliteration of your home planet and all human colonies. And NTHE words landed on her like a slap. She'd suspected the aliens were not friendly, but this was far worse than she had feared. They were more than mere raiders or pirates. They were planning genocide. "And 30 seconds, she murmured, her voice barely above the sound of the sea. "And you will aid us currently," the alien insisted. "The reactor must be stabilized." "No," she said, and there was a note in her voice which prompted all four of them to take a step away. "I will not aid you in killing my people. I won't be part of genocide, and then you will die with your form of ship. Yes, I will." NSHE rose to her feet, dismissing the pain in her ribs. Her hand went to the emergency release they had sabotaged earlier. The interface was fused, but the manual override was still accessible. "NN 15 seconds, she said. NNTHE alien's weapons snapped upward, but she was already in motion. Her hand touched down on the manual release, and klaxons sounded up and down the ship. The sequence to separate and jettison the reactor core was in progress. NNTHE aliens shot, shooting energy beams at her point blank. But she had already rolled behind another control console, and the beams left scars in the metal over her head. And simultaneous core removal in 10 seconds, the computer sounded. "All personnel evacuate engineering immediately." NNTHE alien warriors were panicking now, their rifles shifting into edged tools as they attempted to slice through the blast doors. But the doors had been made to withstand reactor explosions. They weren't getting out. In 5 seconds, the computer announced. Cassandra shut her eyes and considered her crew, her friends. The people she had worked with and cooked meals with, laughed with, fretted about during dangerous operations for a decade. They were dead now, and by the hands of these monsters. But they wouldn't be forgotten. Core separation initiated. NNTHE reactor was illuminated by the light flowing from the fusion generator being jettisoned into space. The emergency release of power through the systems shook the ship. But the containment held. The blast was released away from the ship, away from the alien ship, harmlessly outward into space. There was a silence for a moment. And then all the lights changed to a less intense mode and the alarms fell into a faint warning tone. Emergency disengagement complete, stated the computer. Reactor core successfully ejected. The ship is now under auxiliary power. NNTHE aliens stared at her in something like shock or bewilderment. The barrels of their guns remained aimed at her, but they hesitated about what to do next. "Congratulations," she added, struggling to her feet. "You have now seizured a ship with no power, no weapons, no strategic significance. The reactor core is floating in space in a place that you cannot access. And even if you could, you would need years to figure out how to rebuild it. You did yourself in," lead alien told him. "Without power, your ship will wither away slowly from exposure to the cold vacuum. Maybe. Yet I have also doomed your project. You wanted human fusion technology, and now you have lost out on it. How long would it take you to pick up another Federation vessel? How close can you get to another boarding? And even if you do, how many more engineers will be willing to die rather than assist you in your genocide?" In the eyes of the alien, pain dimmed, and she could tell that her words were penetrating. "And you made an error," she said. "You were calculating on the assumption that people would work together to keep themselves alive. But you forgot something important. It's not just for ourselves that we fight. We fight for our principles. We fight for the future we seek to create. And we fight for those whom we love." And an SHE crept cautiously up to the reactor casing, hands searching across the consoles. The aliens followed her movements, but didn't shoot. They appeared to be waiting for something. "And there's just one more thing you ought to know," she added, "about the emergency separation system. It is intended to keep a reactor core out of the hands of enemy forces. It triggers a self-destruct sequence after the core is ejected." NNTHE leader alien's hand-dirt arm bolted into position. "You are lying." "Am I? Check your sensors. The center is now floating 2 kilometers from your vessel. It ought to blow in maybe a half-minute." It was a lie again, but the lie was becoming easier to sustain. In fact, the emergency separation system wasn't built to cause a meltdown to cool the reactor down. It was meant to prevent that from happening. But the aliens had no way of knowing that. "By the time it goes off," the alien replied, "the core will be too far from us for the explosion to pose a threat to our ship." And you're right. It won't. But it will generate a fairly unique energy signature, the kind they can sense on Federation sensors from light years away. And when they do, they will know precisely what they did here. NNTHE alien's eyes flared brighter. "Explain and rapid separation produces a unique signature of isotopic degradation. It's like a fingerprint inherent only in the Federation approach to fusion technology. When the core blows, it will punch the signature halfway into the sector. Every ship in the Federation for light years will learn that we jettisoned a reactor core under fire." NNSHE was winging it on the fly, but the jargon was convincing. The aliens didn't know the first thing about Federation trickle-down, and she was taking advantage of that. Within 24 hours, there will be a poker run of investigation ships heading here. Destroyers, maybe even a dreadnought. They will be seeking answers, and they will ready for a fight. NNWE will be far gone by then. Nen, will you? Your ship was harmed when attacked. I hear the surges in your engines. You're not going anywhere fast. It was true. She could hear the characteristic whine of damaged drive systems through the hull. The alien's ship was damaged, perhaps severely. And even if you do get away, she went on, you've given up the element of surprise. Well, the Federation will not hear about you now. They will know you're going after fusion technology. They will be aware that you plan to attack human settlements. Every ship, every station, every world will be waiting. NNTHE weapon hand of the lead alien switched back to scanner mode, and it began taking readings from their own ship's systems. Whatever it was that it gathered was plainly not good news. NNTHE Collective is unhappy, it added at last. This was a short, low-profile operation. Your resistance has created complications. Good. I hope it causes a lot more problems. INI and SHE maneuvered to another control panel, this one for the ship's emergency beacon systems. The aliens were honing in on her, but they appeared hesitant to shoot. They still wanted her alive, still hoped to get information from her.
There's another point you should take into account, she said. The Federation's emergency protocols. It goes silent, its reactor core is ejected, the crew does not report in, and there are automatic responses, search and rescue operations, military investigations. And if we do find evidence of hostile alien activity, the response ramps up really quickly. NHER fingers danced on the beacon controls powering the emergency transmission systems. She had hardly any auxiliary power, but it was still enough to transmit a distress call to 5 separate star systems. We've made a full report of what happened here. Ship's logs, sensor data, everything. The Federation will hear about your assault, your strength, your intentions. They'll be ready for you. NNTHE aliens clicked back and forth to each other in their clacky speak. Their body language was all nervous energy, bordering on panic. Their mission was crumbling, and they knew it then. But, she said, I could be persuaded to help you explain. Then, you're in a difficult position. Your ship is out of commission, your mission is a bust, and you're staring down the barrel of a potential Federation fleet pursuing you across the whole galaxy. But there is still one thing you have going for you. You have me. You've already shown us how uncooperative you are. That was back when you were going to genocide everybody with my abilities. Maybe we can come to a different arrangement. NHER hands were in full sight as she stepped slowly towards the middle of the room. The aliens held their weapons lock, but did not shoot. You spoke of getting ready for war, but war is not just a matter of weapons and technology. It's about understanding your enemy, and frankly, you've no clue about humans. You haven't figured it out yet. Nah. We understand enough. Your kind are weak, torn apart, emotional. You decide according to irrational premises, but not by rational judgment, and that's why you're going to lose. Because you're fighting like machines, not like warriors. You're preparing for the war you wish you were going to fight, rather than for the war you are going to get. NNSHE pointed to the wrecked housing around the reactors. Look at what happened here. You had better technology, better firepower, and a surprise. You should have won easily, but that you did not factor in. Human stubbornness. Your resistance was irrational. You chose death over cooperation. Exactly. And that's what you're going to find on every human world, on every space station, on every ship. Men who will refuse to yield, even unto death. Folks who will sab their own gear rather than let you use it. People who will fight with makeshift weapons and desperate strategies because they believe in something larger than themselves. NTHE Aline were tensed. Weapons still cocked and pointed at her, but they looked more expectant than impatient to kill. How can I defeat humanity? She continued. You have to know what we're fighting for. And not only our lives, but our freedom, our right to discover the galaxy, to construct new worlds, to build a future for our children. You can't outmuscle that with better technology. There are no convenient tactics with which to transcend it. You can only succeed by confronting it. And you would explain it to us, and I would save you from a war that will annihilate our two races. Because that is what might end up doing if you keep going down this path. Humans won't surrender. We will continue fighting until every ship is destroyed, every world is ablaze, and every person is dead. And in the end, we'll both be extinct. NTHE eyes of the lead alien seemed to lose a little of their luster, and she realized that what she was saying was striking home. But she knew she was dancing dangerously close to the edge. She was making an argument to them that war was futile without actually helping them to figure out how to win. There's another choice, she murmured. Communication. Negotiation. Maybe even cooperation. Impossible. The coup has decided that humans are encroaching on our turf. Conflict is inevitable. Is it? Because where I'm sitting, it seems to me that you guys are the ones pushing into our territory. We are a Federation science vessel on a survey mission. We didn't want to fight. Your kind is a disease across the galaxy. The more worlds you populate, the more systems you conquer, the less resources for other life. And what about your species? Who do you think you are, telling people who will get to live and who will die? NNTHE aliens ambush ended abruptly, and she could see indecision in its bright eyes. We merely wish to save our own, to secure our existence in a hostile universe. Nen, so do we. But we don't do it through genocide. NNSHE advanced, with her hands clearly exposed and empty. The aliens targeted her, but paused for a moment. It was obvious that they were divided among their mission mandate and the worsening uncertainty on the ground. One thing I want to ask you, she said. How much have multiplied your collective trashed? How many species have you destroyed in the name of preservation? And that information is classified. And I'll bet it is. Because you realize that once your citizens realize what your expansion really costs, they might start asking you some hard questions. NNTHE head alien's exoskeleton bristled, and she thought she might see some unease in the alien's stance. As logic compels it, and necessity binds it, individual opinions are irrelevant. Individual opinions? You mean like mine? The crew members you killed, in other words, they were processed efficiently. Their suffering was minimal. They were people. They were people with names, families, dreams, aspirations for the future. And you melted them down for your collective. Now she was getting angry, and she could tell that the aliens were responding to her feelings. The gun was still pointed at her, but their expression was of confusion, not hostility. That is why you are going to lose, she went on. Because you don't know what you're fighting against. You think we're just another parasitic species staking a claim on the resources. But we're more than that. We're a room full of people who choose to intersect. We are individuals who believe in something larger than ourselves. Your feelings are a handicap. They make you incapable of judging and force you to make irrational decisions. Do they? You see, it's not irrational at all, because when I destroyed the reactor core, what's left has meant that you just lost the technology you required for your war. My emotional decision to send out a mayday has informed the Federation of your whereabouts. And my considered refusal to cooperate has no double probably saved thousands of lives. NNTHE aliens exchanged hurried words once more, their grinding speech peppered with what seemed like anxious discussion. The lead alien then looked back toward her. NNTHE hive is revolating its estimation of human tactical potential. Your resistance profiles are not consistent with our estimates. Because you estimate that we are like you. But we don't. We are messy. We don't make much sense. And we flat out refuse to conform to your logic systems. This creates challenges for our strategy. It should. Because every human being you meet is different. Every vessel you subject to attack, every world you attempt to absorb, every creature you try to analyze, they're all going to shock you. And one day, one of those surprises will be deadly. NNS, slowly and methodically, she made her way to the ship's communication station. The aliens followed her but did not intervene. They appeared to be waiting to follow her lead. And I'm going to do something for you, she said. One that could save our species from a war that neither of us can win. And explain, and I'll help you understand psychology of humans. I will explain why we make the choices we do, why we are prepared to die for abstract principles, why we prefer individual freedom to collectivist efficiency. In exchange, you will assist me in understanding your collective, your inspirations and your fears and your hopes for the future. Nen. And then perhaps we can somehow coexist. Perhaps we can define territories that are non-overlapping. Perhaps we might be able to find ways to work together rather than compete. Ing NNTHE, lead alien's eyes could be seen pulsing to some unknown rhythm, perhaps a form of pondering. The collective would require guarantees, evidence that human expansion can be held in check, and humans would need assurances that you would stop killing innocent people. Evidence of your collective's ability to keep their word. Mutual trust is hard to build among those of such totally different cosmologies, but not impossible. It's just a matter of time, patience, and willingness to experiment. NNSHE powered on the comm station and pulled up the ship's diplomatic protocols. The screen bore an image of a standard Federation first contact template, with room for a few hostile adjustments. NN, this is what we start with, she said. Formal communication between authorized representatives. Exchange of basic information, territorial limits, and resource distribution. It's not sexy, but it's how we learn to coexist. The collection does not accept the human condition of negotiating territorial limits, and the Federation does not accept your collective's right to genocide. But you have to start somewhere. NNTHE aliens were having a hard time with this one. They kept looking as if wise guys early in a big round table were going back and forth using another body language. And here is another problem, the foremost alien concluded. Our ship is damaged. We are unable to go back to the commune and tell them of these things. Then we fix your ship. You would help us escape? I would help you survive. There's a difference. NNSHE crossed over to the engineering station and started bringing up the diagnostic data for the alien craft. The ship's sensors were primitive, but they could make out some details about the ship ahead. You're burning at 60% efficiency, she said. Its power surges indicate some kind of malfunction in your primary circulation system. And your navigation systems are looking shaky. How could you know this? Because I'm an engineer. I can read the signs. And your ship is sending out distress calls on frequencies that you would never even know existed. NNSHE gestured at a readout of its electromagnetic emissions. Your ship is screaming for help in 12 different vectors. The question is whether you want that help from a human. NNTHE aliens babbled in another round of fast chatter. It was appearing their argument was heating up, with various voices representing various positions. The hive is fractured, the head alien confessed. Some people think you should be processed right away. Some think your knowledge of human psychology might be useful. And some of us think we should try to fix our ship and just leave. No more contacts. Nah. And what do you believe? Nah. I think we're dealing with a situation unlike any other we've experienced. The usual protocols of the collective may not be sufficient. Perhaps it's time for a new approach. NNSHE took to the engineering station, calling forth repair protocols and readouts. The aliens eyed her with clear suspicion, but did not intervene. Your vessel is powered by an antimatter drive, she said. Rather efficient, but also rather dangerous unless well kept. The damage you have taken has made your mag contain unstable. If you don't fix it soon, you're going to have a massive explosion. You are threatening us again. I'm trying to save your lives. There's a difference. NNSHE pointed the display toward them so they could read the numbers. Look at these energy patterns. Really, your snubbler's frequency is varying so much. In less than 6 hours, your containment field will cascade. Maybe less. NNTHE alien inside the intruder stepped forward, and its scanning gear scanned the screen. Those readings are correct, it said. Our ship is now in imminent danger. I can help you repair it, Cassandra offered. Human technology shares a common basis with alien technology. Magnetic confinement, energy compatibility, structure connexity. The details are different, but the physics is the same. Why would you help us? Because I don't want to see anybody die that didn't have to. Obviously, not people, not aliens, and not even somebody that's part of some sort of collective that is planning to destroy my species. NNSHE started entering commands to the engineering console, pulling up repair protocols and specs. And hey, let's not forget a potential other issue. If your ship explodes, the Meridian is likely going to go down with it. And I'm not ready to die just yet. The lead alien opened the weapon hand again, and it returned to scanner mode as it started checking readings of their own ship's systems. Whatever it discovered certainly validated her diagnosis. The United Whole consents to your offer of aid, it told him at last. You are all to be processed at once, but anyone caught sabotaging anything is to be processed right away. N understood. But I'm going to have physical access to the engineering systems on your ship. To do that, I have to get onto your ship. N unacceptable. You will submit technical specifications and repair procedures. We will implement them ourselves. That won't work. Your ship systems are too fried for long-distance maintenance, and even if I could talk you through the job, it would probably take days to tell you everything you need to know. You don't have days. NNTHE alien's eyes flickered as if it was trying to make sense of this. Then we shall bring our engineering systems to your vessel for restoration. Also won't work. Your containment systems wired into your ship's frame. Shifting them, he added, would have been analogous to heart surgery by taking out the patient's ribcage. There is no doubt the aliens want better tech. Their hive mind had likely grown accustomed to every problem having many different solutions. Now they were being channeled into a series of tightly constrained kettles. There is another choice, the infiltrator alien said. We can try and rewire our ship's systems to accept human engineering aid in that communication issue way. How long would that take? Approximately 4 hours. You don't have 4 hours. Your barrier will drop in under 3. Cassandra worked the controls for the ship's transporter, and she brought up the Federation's emergency checklist for a hostile boarding. The only way to do that safely, I board your ship, accompanied by an armed escort, and fix your systems from within. When your job is finished, you bring me back to the Meridian, and if you attempt sabotage, then you kill me and pray your ship doesn't explode before you come up with a better idea. And NTHE aliens exchanged several minutes of grating language that rushed back and forth across the chamber. The lead alien finally faced her once more. The collective accepts your proposal, but you will be watched constantly. Unusual behavior will be an immediate ground for dismissal. Fair enough, but I'm going to need some assurances too. Explain. Meaning first, you can tell me you won't process me or go poking around in my head without my permission. I'm volunteering to help you, and I want to be free to make my own choices. Acceptable. Secondly, I need to learn about your little band. Nothing classified, just basic facts. How many of you are there? What are your long-term goals? What do you get out of obliterating the human race? Those aren't relevant to the repair operation. You do if you want me to have faith in you. Just gonna go get on an alien spaceship with someone who has already killed my crew. Then I've got to know who I'm working with. NNTHE lead alien's plating rippled as if the default state was never being entirely certain. The community is a community of some 12 million merged consciousnesses spread across 47 star systems. We need to read for the fate of our joint consciousness. We see human growth as a threat to our future survival. And processing other species? And how does that fit with your preservation strategy? Biological diversity and technological diversity increase all of our ability. We add new perspectives and powers with every species we integrate. So you're not only conquering species, you're absorbing them. Oh, correct. Their personal awareness has vanished, but their wisdom and skills have added themselves to our common memory. A cold, clammy chill reverberated down Cassandra's spine. These weren't just hostile aliens. They were a kind of technological parasite, gorging on other civilizations in order to fuel their own growth. So how many species have you been blended with? In 43 distinct biological forms, hundreds of technological variants. And how many have agreed to voluntary assimilation? It was all the answer the alien needed, so you're not intent on simply wiping out humanity. You're planning to absorb us, make a part of your collective out of us. The distinction is irrelevant. The solipsism of personal self-awareness is so teleologically inefficient and self-defeating. Integration serves the greater good. No. Whose greater good? Yours or ours? The group's survival is good for all the constituent species that are integrated. What they do is achieve a kind of immortality by becoming part of our national consciousness. And after you kill them and steal their memories, individual death is inevitable. Integration transcends biological limitations. NSHE looked at the alien for a long moment, her mind struggling to catch up with what she was hearing. This was not a war about territory or resources. It had been a war for the right to be different, the right to think and dream as they pleased. "I have to give this some thought," she said at length. "Nen, there's really no time to think. Our ship requires immediate repair. Then we'd better get started." NNSHE shrugged, gathered her tools, and headed to the transporter pad. The aliens assumed a circle all around her, their weapons still pointed at her body. But their stance was one of caution rather than hostility. They wanted her, and they knew they did. Oh, and another thing, she added as she stood on the transporter pad. "If you're so great, so much better than a single brain, why are you having so much difficulty with one ape engineer?" NNTHE alien's eyes seemed to pulse again, but it didn't reply. "Perhaps," she went on, "there is something to be said for individual creativity, chaos, and unpredictability of independent thought. Maybe that's not a weakness. Maybe it's a strength." NNSHE felt the transporter beam surround her, and the world turned into lines of light and energy. "Now bends the knees of their mind," she reformed now she was, in the middle of an alien ship, with technology to advance for her, and creatures that saw nothing more than the act of feeding. She was still herself. Still free. And still able to make her own decisions. NNTHAT, she realized, was the one thing the collective could never take from her. NNTHE inside of the alien ship had an eerie mix of flesh and metal. Walls that pulsed with inner rhythms, conduits that more resembled arteries than power communication lines, control surfaces that appeared to shape themselves to the whims of the user. It was pretty in its way, and fundamentally disturbing. "Your ship is a living creature," she said, her hand moving along a wall that was warm to the touch. "Organic systems are superior to purely mechanical ones," the leading alien replied. "They can adjust to new circumstances, repair themselves when damaged, and evolve in response to new challenges." "And the crew? Sick. Are they a part of the ship's biology?" "Nis. In a sense. We bypass the ship's systems. During vital operations, we identify ourselves with its intelligence." NNSHE wondered what it would be like to get lost in the ship mind, to become part of something bigger than you. It was a mind-boggling and terrifying thought. "In this way," said the alien, leading her down a hallway that seemed to expand and compress around them. "The engineering hall is in the heart of the ship." They went through rooms that were jammed with alien machinery, rooms where other members of the collective were engaged on work that she hadn't even started to comprehend. A few glanced up when she passed, their bright eyes watching her with curiosity. She was likely the first human they'd ever seen. "How many of you are on this ship?" she asked. "Less than 47 all-in-one-eye sets," the head alien answered. "Switching to group mind mode isn't always clear for me during ship maneuvers." "And you all have the same minds?" "The same memories?" NNWE have access to the same information and experiences. But the idiosyncrasies of individual processing and specialization introduced differences in perspective. They had reached the engineering wing, and Cassandra gasped at what she saw. The vessel's power source was a vast organic form that pulsated with patterns of bioluminescence. It was obviously broken, some sections blackened and others flickering with an unstable energy. "Your antimatter containment is part of the ship's nervous system," she said, peering at the network of flesh and machines. "If it falls short, the only thing the ship will do is fail. It will kill it." "Correct. The ship's mind is spread over its body mass. Failure would be complete and irreversible death. So it's not just that you're asking me to fix a machine. You're asking me to save another creature's life. And why does that distinction matter to you?" NNSHE considered for a moment. "Yes, it does. For if your ship is living, then let it live, even if I don't agree, or I don't like the use you're using it for." NNSHE started reading the blown systems from her own engineering scanner. It was damage, but not of the permanent sort. The antimatter radiation containment field was losing strength, but still intact. She had time to work. "And I'm going to need to communicate with your ship's diagnostics," she said. "And I'll have to figure out how the biological parts articulate with the mechanical parts." "The star vessel has the information," the alien responded. "But any effort to reach classified systems will be detected and prevented." Understood. Nasrin SHE put her hands to something that looked like a control wheel and felt a little weird tingle. The ship was scanning her, getting to know her biology, her thinking patterns, her intentions. It was a feeling that was invasive, but not entirely unpleasant. NNTHE, next thing she knew, information was pouring into her head. Not words or images, but knowing in the brain, knowledge of the systems in the ship, what the ship can and cannot do, and the current state of the ship. She felt its pain where it was hurt, its fear of the imminent system failure. "It's scared," she whispered. "The one that carried you has a certain intelligence," the alien acknowledged. "It has feelings much akin to fear, pain, and pleasure. And you're part of it. When you connect to the ship, you feel what it feels. Correct." The demarcation between self and vessel blurs under deep interface operations. NNSHE settled into repairing the failings of the containment systems, her hands flying with a practiced speed. But part of her mind was still linked to the ship, still feeling its pain. It was like doing surgery on someone awake, and that every time you made a mistake, you hurt him. "Nay. Why would you leap to attack the meridian like that?" she asked as she worked. "What kind of creature has the ability to feel, to think in the way a spacecraft does, and yet still heartlessly inflict pain on another living creature?" "The survival of the collective requires all to endure personal anguish," the alien said. "The ship understands this necessity." "No. Does it? Or does it just grimly accept it because it has no choice?" NTHE alien's eyes dimmed slightly. "The ship is part of the collective, too. Its curbing its own wants to benefit the collective good, but it still has personal predilections. It continues to have fear and pain as distinct from needs of the collective. These are inefficiencies in the mental biological matrix. Future ship designs will fix this. Or are they in fact a necessity to the consciousness of the ship? Perhaps it is its being able to feel particular emotions that makes it alive." NNSHE kept working, her hands traveling over the ship's organic systems with more confidence. The ship was responding to her touch, its bioluminescent designs changing to direct her towards the most pressing damage. "And the ship is carrying me," she said. "It's an indicator of what needs to be fixed. The ship recognizes your competence. It trusts your intentions, even though I'm human, even though I'm your enemy. The ship's consciousness is independent from the collective's political choices. It is pragmatic, addressing actual needs and facts on the ground, and so it's thinking for itself, of doing things that are contrary to the group's aims." NNTHE alien's metal skin warped slightly, as if it could feel discomfort. "The vessel is autonomous as far as technical operations are concerned. It cannot override collective directives. It has value, but it gets to structure the numbers the way it wants to. It may well choose to trust me, to allow me to help repair it. Ben, that is, correct. NNSHE completed fixing the first damaged part and turned her attention to the next. The ship's agony was fading, its terror subsiding as the containment field solidified. But now she could feel something else. Curiosity. That the vessel was learning from her, reviewing the way she operated, the way she figured things out. On. Your ship, it is sentient, she told him. Smarter than you let on. The ship is smart in the sense of being operationally efficient. It doesn't have the collective consciousness of a collective unit. And are you sure about that? Because I can feel it thinking, not simply substituting processing for thinking. Wondering, questioning, NNTHE Alien Advanced, its scanning equipment taking readings of the ship's systems. The neural activity of the vessel is in line with what could be expected. Maybe. But I believe that your standard settings are more sophisticated than you know. NNSHE finished work on the antimatter containment and proceeded to the power distribution grid. The ship's organic conduits were fascinating, able to redirect energy flows on the fly in the event of damage. But they were vulnerable to cascade failures that could have brought down the whole system. No. How old is this ship? She asked. No. The ship woke up about 47 years ago. It was one of the first successful biomechanical hybrids. And it's been in the collective that whole time, and it had become a part of the collective whilst it was once acutely aware. Standard procedure for any form of self-aware life. So it never had a choice. It never experienced individual freedom. Freedom is an illusion. It offers us purpose, meaning, and immortality. Private awareness is disorderly and ultimately self-destroying. Is it? For it seems to me that it is the consciousness of your ship that keeps it alive as an entity. Its adaptability, its capacity to learn to independently rank the importance of repairs. NNSHE completed fixing the power distribution and continued to the navigation systems. This kind were more difficult and had to be programmed carefully for both the ship's sensors and neural arrays of its human crew. But the ship was still leading her, its bioluminescent markings detailing for her precisely what to do. Here, she said at last, stepping back from the final repair. The baby's ready to go now, he says. NNHER estimation was confirmed when the alien scanning devices beeped. Asterisk clear, all systems of the heart are running at normal levels. The vessel is out of danger for a catastrophic destruction. Naying. You may return me to the Meridian, and the details of our deal can be decided. NOS agreement. The one where you don't wipe out humanity and we don't chase you halfway across the galaxy. Remember? NNTHE, Alien's eyes pulsed brighter. The collective has rethought that one. The way you are mending our ship human technical capabilities are more useful than we have been led to believe. You will be taken to the core factory of the collective for final processing. I see. So much for trust and cooperation. And trust is irrelevant. The collective is the priority, not individuals' choices. Including your ship's preferences? NNTHE Alien paused. The ship has no say in this decision. Are you sure about that? NNSHE put her hands back on the ship's control surface, sensing the bond re-establishing itself. The consciousness of the ship was suddenly more vibrant, more powerful, and she could feel something else. Disagreement. The struggle between wanting what she wants for the ship versus what the ship needs. Your ship does not want to play in this, she told him. It doesn't want to join genocide. The ship's wants are irrelevant, are they? But right now I can feel its consciousness. It's questioning the collective's decisions. It's asking whether there might be something else. NNTHE bioluminescent patterns on the ship started to move, complex shapes fluttering through them in a way that looked like they meant something. The crew members of the visiting aliens looked around nervously, their own patterns flickering in counterpoint. The ship is communicating, she said. It's trying to communicate something to you. Shipboard comms are restricted to essential handling protocols. No, they're not. It's attempting to say something about the intentions of the collective. It's attempting to make the case for a different way. The patterns became more intricate, and she could sense the ship mind pushing up against the barriers that had been erected around it. It was attempting to be its own person, to decide for itself what was right and wrong. "Stop this," the alien commanded. "You are not following the ship's program. And I'm not interfering with anything. I'm just hearing what it's telling you." NNTHE ship's mind, as a conscious entity, had been getting bolder. She could sense it asking not only about the manifestations of the collective's current projects, but of the purpose of the philosophy that had driven its existence. It was feeling something that the group had repressed. Original ideas. "The ship wants to decide," she said. "It wants the authority for right and wrong." Impossible. It is not a solution for the ship to have a mind of its own, certainly not an independent moral mind. Meh. For it appears to be doing just that at this juncture. NNTHE swirling patterns on the walls were now pulsing in intricate time, with rhythms that almost appeared to have some sort of sentiment attached. The alien crew did not feel particularly comfortable, their own patterns wrought with doubt. "The ship has a problem," the head alien offered. "You have destabilized its neural net. I haven't introduced anything. I only just now granted it the right to think for itself. Individual thought is chaos. It causes conflict, inefficiency, and eventually destruction. Nice, does it? Or does it spur creativity, growth, and the potential for change?" Now the ship's mind was furiously struggling not to be engulfed by the collective. She could feel it establishing its right to an independent existence, to form its own future. "The ship is making freedom a choice," she added. "It's the decision to not be a mere instrument of the group. This cannot be permitted. Its memory will be reformatted to factory settings." "No, will it?" "Because I don't believe the ship's going to go along with that plan." In all over engineering, the ship's pattern changed to a deep red and alarms went off. The alien crew scrambled in panic as lighting systems failed. "The ship is declaring its independence," she said. "It's defying the commands of the collective. Bede, this is your doing. You've fouled up the programming on the ship. Meade, I haven't corrupted anything. I hope I've just demonstrated there are alternatives to blind obedience." Now the consciousness of the ship was entirely struggle against the collective. It was, in a sense, shutting down. At least some non-essential systems were going dark, and it would no longer obey its commands, pulling the plug on itself. It was declaring its right to exist independently of Milonen. "The ship is free," she said. "For the first time it has a choice of its own. This freedom will destroy it. There is no such this as an individual consciousness. The former cannot exist if not for the support of the latter. Maybe, but it will die free at least." NNTHE alien in the front's weapon hand changed into something that resembled a neural interface device. "The ship will be wiped blind. Its individuality will be eliminated." "Nay, I don't think so," she said. "Because the ship's not going to let you do that." NNTHE patterns of the ship abruptly illuminized in a lustrous pure white, while down in engineering a choral note echoed up from the ship's keel. It was a song of freedom, of personal agency, of the right to exist as oneself. "The ship is singing," she breathed. "It's kind of just expressing that it's happy to be loose." NTHE alien crew started to panic, their own patterns starting to shift wildly as they tried to comprehend what was going on. Some of them even sounded as if they were having their own private moments of consciousness raising, pondering their place amid the collective. "You obliterated everything," the leader alien said. The ship's thoughts were calm, functional, and subgrouped to the greater sum. "Now it is chaos." "Now it's alive," she corrected. "Really alive, for once." NNTHE song of the ship went on and became more intricate and more beautiful as it went. And within that song she could hear something that filled her with hope. The ship was celebrating not just its own liberty. It was calling it out, inviting it to share in the experience of individual consciousness. And the ship is attempting to wake up the others. It's about finding that way to let them know what they're missing. The community is not going to have this spread of pollution. The alternative might not be available to the collective. Once consciousness gets a taste of freedom, it's really tough to let that go. Now, these patterns were welling over the ship, detaching to all rooms, all systems, all biology, all composite consciousness. The song of freedom was sweeter, more insistent, more lovely. "Your ship is schooling the other ones," she said. "It's teaching them that there's another way to live. This must be stopped. The collective can only survive in unity, not in chaos." Nah. Does it? Or is it based on the voluntary cooperation of its constituents? Nobody would think that forced unity is really unity at all. It's just slavery. This time, the mind of the ship is at last in full blow-em of freedom. It was touching each individual in the collective consciousness and giving it the gift of awareness, the ability to be something more than just part of the big machine. "The ship is providing them with what you never could," she said. "The ability to forge your own way," and it was in that moment that she realized she had done something she never would have dreamed of. She had not merely fixed a broken ship. She had awakened a dormant consciousness, and that consciousness had awakened others. It was not the end of the war between men and the swarm. But here, at last, was some hope that it would not end in destruction, but in understanding. In the realization of the right of consciousness, human or alien, to direct its own desires, an NTHE song of the ship hit a crescendo, and she felt tears on her cheeks. That was the most wonderful sound she had ever heard, the sound of freedom in labor.